Hey guys, I'm back here ready to finish the video of lists and tuples, and this video I'm going to show you how to create a tuple and compare between the list and the tuple. So if you're ready, let's get started. So to create a tuple, it's almost the exact same as a list. These are kind of all almost the exact same as each other. That's how Python was created. It was supposed to be easy and simple. So we create the name, my tuple, and we're going to go assign it to something. And to create the tuple, instead of having a bracket, or two brackets I should say, we have parentheses, and that is how you create a tuple. So that's kind of it for tuples. Or that's how you create one. Now let's go fill it up with some data. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1 to 0 again. 1. And what we're going to do is exactly what we did with the list. We want to go do the same with the tuple. So we're going to do my tuple. We're going to do -1 again. We just want to change 0 to 100. My tuple -1 equals 100. We're going to print this to the terminal. And what do you think is going to happen? Oh my. It says, tuple object does not support item assignment. The list, you can change it. The tuple, you can't. So I cannot change the last element to equal 100. Well, let's try the first one. Let's try index 0. I want to change index 0 to 100. Let's see what happens there. Nope. Cannot support. It does not support that. Let's change 5. No, let's change 3. That would be 2 because 0, 1, 2. Let's change that to maybe, let's say, 33 or something like that. Still, we get the error. So that means clearly, with tuples, you cannot do that. And that's pretty good at some points because let's say that I had a huge line of code and I actually did not want this to be changed at all. I got this from, let's say, a database or something. And in the database is this. I do not want my program to change this to 444. That would just ruin it. That would make no sense because the database has 4, yet my program changed it to 444. That's not what I want. But with a tuple, I get all of that data from the database, and let's say for some reason my program was going to change 4 to 44. Whoops, it's supposed to be a 3 because remember, 4 is at index 3. So with the list, it would be changed, but with the tuple, I get the error. And with the list, let's just show that. My list. See, it's been changed to 44, and that's not what I want. So that means with the tuple, if you really want to make sure your data is not changed, then you would use the tuple. Now let's say I do want to change it though. Let's say I want the tuple. Let's create this whole scenario. This is getting kind of messy now, so let's just move that. And let's say I do want to have my tuple here. So I have this, and I have my print function, and I say tuple should not be changed. And then let's say 5 seconds later, so sleep 5 seconds, actually 2 seconds. And this is just keeping my program asleep for 2 seconds, so it's going to take a break, and then 2 seconds later it will run, so you don't have to worry about what that is. But here, just do from time import sleep, and then just put sleep and then 2 if you really want. And then we do print tuple should be changed. And now we want to change our tuple, right? Well, let's say we want to change to 7 to 77. So what we would do here is we would go get the index we want. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Index 6. And we would assign it to whatever we want. And we're going to put 77 here. but we could put anything else. We could put Silas, we could put your name, we could put 1033. We could also put Bill's name in, but we're going to do 77. And with that, that should, if we print my tuple, what do you think is going to happen? Well, if you said it was going to give, oh, okay, there we go. If you said it was going to give me an error, that's correct. It was going to give me an error. So we want the tuple not to be changed, but then after 2 seconds, for some reason, we want it to be changed again. So with the tuple, it just cannot be changed, and that's the sad part about having a tuple. But we can easily just do this. Create a list, my list, and it's going to do my, and it's going to be equal to my tuple. Now that's one thing we haven't looked at. We've only used our values that we have created, but we can also use other variables and assign it to other variables. So that's interesting. But my list equals now my tuple. So technically, oh wait, one thing. Since my tuple is a tuple, then my list will also be a tuple. It only makes sense. So one thing you have to do is change it to a list. And that's something we'll look at later. This is another function like print. Print is a function. And you can see here, oh, list is a class, but we're changing it. So we're just saying list, turn my tuple into a list. And now if we look at it, tuple should not be changed, then tuple should not be changed, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And that's because we printed my tuple when we wanted my list. Man. There we go. That's better. This is our list. Tuple should be changed. Now that my list is equal to my tuple, now all we can do right here, which shouldn't be too hard, is we do my list, and we want, remember, we wanted 7 to be equal to 77. So we just go right here, my list 6, index 6 because it starts from 0, equals 77, and that should exactly show us 77. So 7 should be 77. And there we go. That is what we wanted. Now, let's take a look at the tuple. I know this is getting much more complex really quickly, but it's not too bad once you get used to it. There we go. So the list has been changed. It's been changed to 77, but the tuple has not been changed. And let me explain why. We have created a new variable and we have assigned it to my tuple. So whatever we do to this new variable, which is called my list, will not affect my tuple because my list only equaled my tuple, but now we have a new variable, which is my list. So whatever we do to this one will not affect this one, if you understand what I'm saying. So we had this is what my tuple equals, right? And now we're saying whatever my tuple has, just put it right into my list. And my tuple should have exactly that. And that's what it does have. It has 1, 2, 3, 1 to 0. So we're just saying, oh, just throw this right into my list. But instead of typing all that out, I did my tuple, because let's say that we didn't know what my tuple had. Well, just get whatever we have in my tuple, throw into my list, and now I can go edit my list. And there we go. So that's it for lists and tuples. Much more tricky than variables, but they're not all too bad. So I'm going to come back with a challenge. Okay, so I'm here with the exercise, or the challenge I should say. So what I want you to do is to create a tuple and call it my tuple and let it have all the letters of the alphabet. Once you've done that, I want you to create a list and call it my list and set it to the tuple. Note, make sure you put my tuple between the class or the function, if you want to call it that, what's actually a class, between the list class, and make sure you put it between the parentheses, otherwise it won't work. Then change the first element of my list and set it to Jeff. So that would be practically from A to Jeff. Then print my tuple and my list to the terminal. And then you should see, actually I'm not going to tell you what you should see. Then set my tuple, so the tuple, not the list this time. So then set my tuple, set it to 0 to 9. And then print my tuple and my list to the terminal. And I'm still not going to tell you what what you should see, but you should not get any errors from any of this. So I want you to go do the challenge and then come back when you're finished. Okay, so you should be back now. You should have finished the challenge. If you didn't, well, I encourage you to still go back, otherwise you just can't learn to code. Coding comes by making mistakes and learning from them, as most things do. So the first thing to do was to create a tuple and call it my tuple, and have all the letters of the alphabet. For this video's sake, and your guys, I'm not going to just go type out the whole alphabet, so I'm just going to do my tuple equals, because we're assigning it to something. Remember, tuples always have parentheses, and I'm just going to do A, B, and C. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to print the whole alphabet. Then I said create a list and call it my list and set it to the tuple. So I'm going to do my list equals my tuple. Now if you did this, it already sadly is wrong, because that means my list is still going to equal whatever the tuple has, and the tuple has parentheses and ABC, so that means clearly the list is going to have the same thing, and that means the list is going to be a tuple also. So what I also asked for was put it between the list function here, so it will become a list instead. So list. And now we have converted this tuple to a list. And this will now make my list actually be a list. Then I said change the first element of my list and set it to Jeff. So my list equals, and I said the first element. So the first element in Python, the first element in Python would not be 1, but it would be 0, because it starts from 0 and it goes up. So I have selected the first element, and I said change it to Jeff. Now I said print my tuple and my list to the terminal. So my tuple, and here's something else to show you. You can also put several things in the print function. You don't have to just have one thing printed. So my tuple and my list. And there we go. And now if we run this, now would you look at that. This is a tuple, and look, it has the parentheses, that's how you can tell it's a tuple, is A, B, and C. Now we have the list, and the list has the brackets, and it has Jeff, B, and C, because we changed the first element to Jeff, so that's why it's Jeff. Now, that was not the end of the challenge. I also said set my tuple to 0 to 9. And I actually did not show you how to do that on purpose. So my tuple equals 0 to 9. How you would do that is you would get my tuple again. You would assign it all over again, practically the same thing. But instead of doing ABC, I just do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, practically, this is how you create a variable, right? But the problem is, or I should say the situation in this case is, we already have my tuple. So right here, it has been created. Here, it would have been created, but since we already have my tuple up here, and it's already defined and declared, then instead of creating it all over again, we're just assigning a whole new value to the same variable. That's why we're not actually creating a new variable, we're just changing the variable. And that's the only way to actually change a tuple, just by assigning it all over again. You can't actually do this type of stuff, like change each element. So I said print it to the terminal again. And if I run this, would you look at that? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the tuple. And the list still has Jeff, B, and C. So that is what you should have got. If you didn't, well, look back and figure out why you didn't, and then, well, try it again. Remember, coding takes practice, time, and effort. And if you want to code, well, you just have to keep on practicing. Well, thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, just ask it in the comments section below. This was a tricky subject here, so if you didn't grasp it in the beginning, that's completely fine. And if you need any help, just go ask in the comment section below, or if you have any comments, also do the same. And if you like this video, please give it a likes. And thanks for watching.